Hi guys, it's Tamara coming back at you with another video. Welcome back to my channel. Sorry, it's a bug flying around me when I'm trying to talk. So let's finish our conversation on anger. I talked a little bit on Wednesday and on Monday about anger. And one of the things that I highlighted was controlling anger. And the other one was identifying ways to deal with somebody else's anger. So in this video, I'm going to be answering a question from somebody, and I'm going to pull it up here on my laptop. Give me a sec. I think I have it. It was a question from somebody that had posted a comment on YouTube for me, and I told them that I would most likely answer it. Oh, I hate gnats. Oh my God. It's like fall comes and then like gnats just completely devour my space. So, and I'm in my office, so that makes it 10 times worse. So, I'm going to look at this comment. Let me pull this up. It was a good question. It was a question about, if my computer will cooperate, it's a question about short fuses. And what do you do about people who have a short fuse? So I want to talk a little bit about triggers. I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness. And then I'm going to draw you a diagram like I usually do. I want to make it as practical and explainable as I possibly can. So let's go ahead and just jump right on in. Okay, so I've been answering a lot of your questions, and I thank you for those questions. They're awesome. They motivate us to kind of delve in a little bit more. They motivate us to explore and to grow, and to kind of talk about and dissect certain issues involving human behavior. And so that's why this is a counseling channel for growth, right? We're studying human behavior and we're studying how to deal with it. So I'm going to read the question to you, and then I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to teach you guys a new way to look at anger. And this is going to be a tool that you can take and use in your own life or with other people. All right. So here's the question. Hi, Tamara. I'm so glad I discovered your videos. Thank you very much, Laura. I appreciate that. My question is, what do you do about someone with a short fuse? My husband has one, and the littlest thing set him off. When I talk to him about it, he denies it. The kids ask me, what is Dad's problem? And I'm running out of excuses, and I'm tired of walking on eggshells. Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine. Thank you for your time. Hugs, Laura. Thanks so much, Laura. I appreciate that question, and my heart goes out to you. With this situation, it's really tough. So let me address this from two different perspectives. One perspective is going to be, how do you talk to your kids? And the other perspective is going to be, how can you conceptualize this anger, and what tool can you use to kind of get your husband to see that this is a real problem? So first, let's jump on explaining this to your kids. I think it's okay to be honest with kids, right? And just tell them, like, your dad is not behaving like I would like him to. This is really hard for all of us, not just you. When Dad looks like he's in a bad mood, don't take it personal. And I ask that you guys go to your room or go outside and play, and right. So you want to make sure that you tell your kids to separate their reality from his reality, right? Because his reality is that of short fuse, ready to explode no matter what. Okay. Your kids don't need to be a part of that, because they're going to start internalizing that as something being wrong with them. So to protect them from that, you want to X them out of his space, right? Go ahead upstairs and play, or go outside and play, or go to Jimmy's house down the street, or let's go do some homework, or let's go do some grocery shopping. Why don't you come with Mom? Whatever you can do to separate your kid's reality from your husband's reality. Now, when things are calm, I encourage you to talk to your kids about anger. Give them a very basic understanding of anger, that it's typically something that comes out as aggression, but underneath the surface, something's really, really bothering your dad. And when he's like that, don't feel responsible for that, right? It's not your fault. And you can explain to them further that you and your husband are going to deal with that issue, that they don't have to be burdened by what Dad is struggling with. I think kids take it upon themselves to either feel like they need to fix the problem or feel like they need to fix themselves. So you want to make sure that your kids have a clear understanding that it is not them, but in fact, it is your husband, and it's something that you two are going to and need to deal with. All right, so that's the kid perspective. For your husband's perspective, you might find it helpful to kind of work with your husband on what's triggering him. So this is called the ABC model. I use this a lot with my clients. So let me hold on, guys. So let me make you a diagram because I want you to see this. I'm going to use my clipboard here. All right, so this is called the ABC model, and I may have done this before on this channel. So what I'm going to do is post like a little diagram over here so that you can see it. All right, so we're going to do columns. So we're going to do column A, column B, and then we're going to do column C. Okay, so this is how it looks. Okay, this is the ABC model. Column A is antecedents. Okay, antecedents. I'm going to spell that for you, if I can. Antecedents. B is behavior. And I'm going to post all this stuff around me so you can keep up. And C is consequences. Okay, so A is antecedents, B is behavior, and consequences is C. A, B, C model. And the whole idea with this model is that there's usually something that comes before, right? The antecedent comes before the outburst, which is the antecedent or the trigger. So I'm going to put in here trigger. Okay, just so that you can kind of keep this in mind. So A is the antecedent or the trigger, right? Something that comes before the actual outburst. B is behavior, all right? So B is behavior. So what is the behavior that occurred after the trigger? And C is what happened after the anger was triggered, after the behavior occurred, what happened that was a bad consequence. So when I do this with families and kids, I use the example of opposition. But for your question, Laura, I'm going to use a situation that may be specific to what you and your husband deal with. So the antecedent or the trigger is going to be money, okay? So let's say that money is the trigger for your husband. Let's see, your behavior was spending $300 without him knowing. Okay, let's say the consequence of that was an outburst in anger. Okay, so this is how you would do this. So let's say you decide to do this with your husband. Okay, this is what it would look like. So you've got money as the trigger. The behavior was that you spent, this is all an example, $300 without him knowing. And the consequence was his anger outburst. So what I would have my families and my kids do using the ABC model is mix things up a little bit. So instead of making it negative, make it positive so that you can see how this happens, that happens, and that happens. So let's say for antecedents, you decide to, instead of the trigger being money, let's say the trigger is, you neglected to tell him that you spent something. So the behavior was, he completely lashed out at you, started screaming, started cursing, started totally disrespecting you, right? And the consequence is that you're feeling humiliated, angry, and upset. So I would have you look at this antecedent with your husband, and I would have you ask your husband, how can we change we can't change the trigger. So the trigger was that I spent some money, but what we can change is the behavior and the consequences. So how can we change that behavior? Well, you spent this money, yes, but his behavior doesn't have to be the same behavior over and over and over, right? The trigger may never change, but he's going to have to learn to control his behavior. And therefore, when he controls his behavior, he can then control the consequences, right? So let's say you spent money. Instead of him yelling and lashing out at you, instead, he could say something like, I really wish that you would talk to me before you spend money. I mean, it just frustrates me. I feel so degraded and disregarded when you spend money like this and not tell me. The consequence is going to be more of a conversation. It's going to be more understanding. It's going to be more compassion, more empathy, more patience. So you can't change the trigger, but you can change the behavior, which in turn changes the consequence. So I would use this as an example with your husband and even with your children to show that, okay, A, B, and C happens, but how do we change B and C to make things a lot better for us. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in future videos, but I did want to answer your question, Laura. Thank you for that. I hope that this made some sense to you. If you guys have further questions about this, comment, let me know. I encourage you to give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful to you. I also encourage you to hit the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. And to my current subscribers, thanks so much for subscribing. I'm glad to have you here. I will see you Monday with a new video. We're going to be talking about suicide. We're also going to finally get to the Dunning-Kruger effect. I think you guys are going to like this video, so stick around. All right, guys, I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.